physical well-being, they also hear about what pranayama. That is not only the physical well-being, you can actually regulate your prana in a way which will benefit your system. While in yoga they come to know, right? Now they also use pranayama, then they are saying, okay, now that's not where yoga ends. Yoga also means other disciplines. So that means they go and they are at different levels. So that means they also begin to, what do they do? They begin to kind of, most of the time in the US, you ask most of these yoga students, they are mostly vegetarians. Mostly. Not all, many. The whole vegetarian movement in the US is mostly yoga people. Wonderful. See, we are not criticizing anyone. Please understand that final philosophy we don't agree with, but they are all doing good things. Then they become vegetarian. Then they become far more, all these new age and all. Then they said, okay, now what else? So they are the ones who are like little bit asking, little bit more, little bit more, little bit more. And in the last course of Swamiji, there were so many yoga people from all around the world who came to study Vedanta. Because somewhere along the line, they want more answers. So that means that right now, in the present times, you see people who teach Vedanta, and you see a lot of people who do yoga, but they do yoga and then they move one step further, and they are at different stages. Somebody is only doing asana, somebody is doing pranayama, somebody is also becoming vegetarian, somebody is looking for more. It's not a one uniform group, it's a diverse group. Within that group, there are all at different levels.
But if you look at the mass teachers, they all teach Vedanta as Vaita.
That's what
so nobody is doing oneness. Everybody is teaching Vedanta as Vaita. That's why the oneness, the mass groups get attracted to that.
Yes.
Like for Sankhya and all, there are good teachers who are teaching.
No, this is what I am saying, that in fact, the real problem in India is nobody studies any of the 6 schools of thoughts. They just listen here and there, and they are good orators and they lagao whatever they want. This is how it is.
Are there still, I don't get it exactly, are there still 6 schools today, or it was only in the time of Shankara?
See, this is what I am saying, that most of them, they are not even, Vaisheshika you don't learn. You can learn in university as a topic which is of not Indian philosophy, but not these traditional teachers who will teach, Vaisheshika or Nyayayika or Sankhya. Yoga, as I am telling you, people do, but there is nobody who is teaching in that tradition.
And what about Purva Mimamsa?
Purva Mimamsa, okay, yeah, Purva Mimamsa, that is, I think it's still very much alive. Purva Mimamsa they are also looking at Vedas, and what they are saying is, in fact, it's quite surprising. They say that, okay, you are a jiva and you find yourself in this world. Now, what do you need to do? You need to do good karma. What is this good karma going to do? It is not only going to give you, it is the Vedas they look into. So they also treat Veda as a pramana. It will say, yeah, you may think that your conclusion could be that by doing good karma you are a loser. So many people make this statement that, oh, I am doing all the good things and I am getting nowhere. Look at all those people, they are cheating and they are getting ahead in life. This is a vision of many people, that by being good you are actually losing out in life. So many people think like that. So this is why they don't think like that, because they listen to Veda and it says there is a law of dharma. So that means that if I do a good thing, then not only there is an order there which will give me punya. They believe in that. Seen result, which is seen the seen results which are good, and also there is what unseen result. Unseen result can result in either me coming back on this earth with better and better and better forms, or it can result in me going what? 7 up. One of the 7 up lokas. So now, when you come to this earth, instead of just, just grabbing and all, be a good human being, and what? It will give you results not only in this life, but also what? Life after. This is the orientation of a Purva Mimamsaka. So that means the function of Veda is to tell us what are the different rituals, what are the different prayers, what are the different, that we otherwise don't know. All the mantras.
Is this Purva Mimamsa, we can say, is the philosophy of Hinduism? Because I read it, this is similar.
The Hinduism has Vedanta also, no?
Yeah. But
So 6 schools of thought means Purva Mimamsa is one of them.
one of Hindu.
See, all of them are looking into Vedas.
Yeah.
And all of them have different interpretation of what Veda is talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
So this is how it is presented.
But what we call Hinduism, or our understanding from the West, is a religious movement here. Can I say it like this? Hinduism?
No, because see, first of all, the word Hindu itself is an arbitrary word.
It's a wrong word.
Because it's actually the people who belong to Indus civilization. That is the real meaning. They won't say Indus, and it became Hindu along the way. Right? Now, what they call Hindu, according to the traditional view, who is a Hindu for us?
Yeah.
The Hindu is the one who looks upon Veda as a pramana. That is the definition of a Hindu. Our books are Vedas.
Our scriptures.
Our scriptures are Vedas. That's why we call it Shruti, that Veda is pramana in the sense that Veda is our books. This is a Hindu. So all these people are Hindus. Who? All 6.
All six. It's different, like
Yeah.
our understanding
Yeah.
here, of course.
Seeing the same thing from different
Yes, here 6 darshanas, but they make a difference in some books about Hinduism. Okay.
That's another interpretation.
That is
One
yet another,
interpretation, yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So that means, according to the traditional view, who is a Hindu is who takes Veda as a pramana. Now within the people who take Veda as a pramana, these are the differences. Shat darshana. They look at Veda and this is their conclusion. They are all looking at Veda.
Katholizismus,
Hmm?
Protestantismus, Katholizismus, alles Christentum, aber verschiedene Interpretationen.
Yeah, but this definition I have never found, that that Hinduism is looking Vedanta as a pramana. This is
Not Veda,
Veda.
not Vedanta.
Vedas,
Vedas
yeah,
as a
yeah,
pramana.
that's pramana, yes, no?
Yes.
And
So that means,
there was a word Hindu, doesn't matter. It's not
doesn't
a word.
matter. See, the scholars, because
Yeah.
they haven't really understood the tradition, they come up with their own thing, and they have a viewpoint, but the tradition is this. The tradition is, all this is why Vedanta is not Hindu, please understand. Because we also take what Veda as a pramana. It may not be a religious theology, but it is still, you can't take away from Vedanta the fact that it is part of this Hindu, because Veda is a pramana. That is a definition. And you are looking at Upanishads to understand something which you otherwise cannot understand. So it's not your personal philosophy. That means you are a Hindu. Anybody who tries to take away Hinduism, it is part of Hindu, but it is universal. Universal means, now look at this. When Einstein discovered E is equal to mc squared, does it become a Jewish knowledge? No. The knowledge is always universal.
Applies to all.
It applies to all. Because it shows realities. It is not only for Hindus. Why? Because it is talking about truth which is universal.
So now this Brahma Kumari, they are teaching.
Oh my God, I don't know what Brahma Kumari is. So I can't go and talk about Brahma Kumaris because I have no idea what they are talking about. I'm not qualified to talk about them because it's totally beyond my scope of learning. So I can't comment on it.
Is Purva Mimamsa also widely taught in India today?
Purva Mimamsa means, see for example, there are a lot of people for example, like South India, you will find lots of people who are doing a lot of karma. They are doing a lot, but they are not at all rituals. They do very elaborate rituals. They learn the mantras perfectly. They are all what we can call, and their vision of the world is, by doing this, you will get punya. And their vision is, they may not have actually studied it as a school of thought, but that is what they believe.
No.
So that means they also, not only that the priests go to different homes, and what they do is, so for example, you have different rituals are prescribed in the Vedas for different things. So that means, now imagine that there is something called Prayashchitta Karma. Prayashchitta Karma means what? That many things that you may have done in the past out of your ignorance, even though they were coming from the position of ignorance, you still have to pay for the result. So now there are some rituals which are meant, which is a new karma, and what is the sankalpa of this new karma? To offset something that you have done in the past.
Nullifies.
This is called nullifies. It is meant to nullify or at least mitigate.
Mitigate that.
So that means it is called Prayashchitta Karma. Where did they get what they have to do? What is the nature of Prayashchitta Karma? What is the nature of the ritual they have to do? They get it from the Vedas. So this is why in some ways you can say they are Purva Mimamsakas. Because they use the Vedas to come up with what, that they have learnt the mantras of the Vedas, they have learnt all the rituals, different rituals to cater to different needs. For example, the wedding, that is also a ritual. Then Antim
It is not
Samskara.
documented the way Advaita is documented. Advaita is a very strong
No,
process.
Veda is a documented, no?
I'm talking about Advaita.
Huh?
Advaita Vedanta I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's all Upanishads, no? Documented, no?
But they also have strong influence on Upanishads.
Who has?
They would have. I'm talking about Purva Mimamsa. They would also draw from the Upanishad.
No, see, the Veda has two parts. One is what we call the Karma Kanda, and the other one is Jnana Kanda. For Purva Mimamsaka, they don't take Vedanta as a separate part of the Veda. They say the entire purpose of the Veda is what? Just to make you do some rituals and prayers which are meant for you to go to heaven. Then we ask them, so what about this last portion of the Veda? They don't treat it as a separate portion of the Veda. They say they are just some upasanas. It's not revealing truth, it is just making you see this sun and you as one. So, just like little bit feeling good, little bit feeling connected and all that. So they don't see Upanishads as having some additional message than what just
But
this
what they
rituals
say
and
is that
prayers.
if you do this meditation, they take Upanishad like mostly as some kind of upasana.
Upasana.
And if you do this upasana in conjunction with the ritual,
Yes, you
it
will
will
get
give
more punya.
much more
Punya.
punya to enhance the efficacy of the ritual that you're doing.
For
Yes.
Advaita, Upanishad are central, right?
Sorry?
For Advaita,
Yes,
Upanishad is
yes,
central.
yes,
Here it
exactly.
is more of an inference sort of a thing. It's, in the Purva Mimamsa.
In the Purva Mimamsaka, they are looking at the Veda, but for them, the end that is seen as what Veda. See, when you are looking in the Veda, you need to do, like last time I said, Tatparya Nishchaya. Tatpara Nishchaya means what? You have to figure out what this book is talking about. So that means many people read this book and they say this is what it is talking about, this is what it is talking about. These are all 6, they are all looking at the Veda and they are talking about what, this is what they get from the Veda. So Purva Mimamsaka, when they look at the Veda, they don't look at Veda as having 2 sections, Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. They see Veda as one whole book, and in that one whole book, what is the purpose of that book? It is to give you some information about what? Some prayers, some rituals, some upasanas, which will what? Give you more punya and what? Better lokas.
So the lokas are the main thing.
How to go to this.
And finally merge with what they finally call the final loka or the Paramatma they refer to.
So,
There's
Goes
no
back. That is the end.
conclusion.
so that means, in fact, human life is ongoing life. A person is a jiva and the travel, and your attempt is to make your travel as beautiful and as pleasant as possible. That is how they see Veda. So that means the Upanishads, when we ask them, so why are you ignoring this big part? Then they answer what Surya is saying. They say they are just upasanas, they are not realities. But by adding these rituals with upasanas, you enhance the results. So you get even better lokas. That is how they see Purva Mimamsaka.
And it's a big thing.
And
Actually,
it's a big
I just realized that when you're referring to as a name, majority of the gurus in South who are teaching this philosophy as saying lokas and the aspect, and that is the mass following. Which is, I have WhatsApp which I connected to a couple of gurus who send this, and the same philosophy applies. I'm able to recognize what they're trying to say. But they're very well-read people, and they're very, like you said, they know and very beautifully they know the verses and all that.
Yeah. So I think what probably survives in India now, see, they may not actually study it as Purva Mimamsaka. They will believe that Veda is for what? Just giving, these rituals and prayers and then better worlds and things like that. So that is how it is seen. And that you will find many in India. Because you do find people performing rituals, you do find people doing prayers, you have all these very sophisticated mantra chanting, Vedic pathshalas. So they are all there. But they don't understand Veda as showing oneness, that they don't accept. So this is how it is. Now, Brahma Kumari I have no idea, so I have no idea. But these are the 6 schools of thoughts.
There is one more, Advaita,
Vishishta Advaita.
Shuddha Advaita, Vallabhacharya.
Oh, Vallabhacharya, I don't know.
He's
Madhavacharya.
No,
See-
Madhavacharya becomes Vishishta Advaita.
Okay, so there is one more school that we see, and that is that I will show you later. Right now, we are just saying, so that means 6 schools of thought, not 6 schools of thought. Vedanta, traditional Vedanta is, we treat it as pramana, and others are also treating it as a pramana, but they have what? Different contentions. So that now, what do? We enter into a discussion with them and we show logical fallacy. Now, how would we, all the other schools we saw, how would we enter into argument with Purva Mimamsaka?
With Purva Mimamsaka, the basis of their discussion exists within time and space and objects. So you have to tell them, start that point, and then it will again say, following up.
Exactly. So that means, absolutely. So that means it is the whole thing is what? You are an entity within time and space, and you have to keep traveling within time and space for cycles of creation, and your only thing is what? Get better places. So that means you still are not answering how did time and space come from. You still are not answering what is really, am I the one who is just traveling within time and space indefinitely, or am I something more than that? So So that means these are the things that are unanswered. Yeah, and where is the setup coming from? They don't answer any of that. So that is how we enter into discussion with all of them. So this is what it says, that that reality is there, but so many learned people think about that reality what differently. And this, both this Ishvara, the intelligence within which all these different thinkers exist, they are all what? They all can thrive. Like in the dream world, now imagine, there are 5 people who have different opinions about the creator of the dream world. One person says, oh, this is not, there is no creator at all of the dream world. The dream world just came like that. That is one. The second one is saying, there is a creator which has put together the mountains which are inert and people which are inert together. The third one is, the creator is somewhere totally away and what? Somehow created the world. So that means these are all the people in the dream, while in the dream having different opinions about what is their nature, what is the nature of the dream world, and who has created the dream world. All of them are discussing. The real creator of the dream lets all these discussions take place. In which all these discussions take place. And each one is very vehemently arguing with the other. Is it affected, involved by any of that? In which all these different contentions can exist and can exist for billions of years, for cycles of creation. As long as there is creation, people are going to have different opinions. This is why Advaita doesn't have this whole big need of what? Bringing people to our flock. We don't have that pressure. Whenever a person is ready, the person will come. So this is how. Ishvara allows everything. There is one very beautiful verse of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna says, anything that happens, any opinion that any person has is within me. Nothing is outside me. Every opinion happens within me. And at the same time, allow all the and in fact, he tells Arjuna, you don't disturb people from their beliefs. If they want to learn, and then you can help them. Lord Krishna himself was like that with Arjuna. He knew Arjuna since they were kids. And all along Lord Krishna knew the reality. It's not like he only came to know yesterday and then he said, hey Arjuna, look at this, what I found out.
He said only when he asked for it.
Exactly. Only when Arjuna discovered the fact that every skill that he got, all the privileged positions that he enjoyed, everything that he had was not going to solve one fundamental human problem, and that is what? Of sorrow, limitation, inadequacy, lack. Then he asked Lord Krishna, please tell me how to solve this problem. That was the only time, that was the time that Lord Krishna began to teach. All opinions that Ishvara is not insecure. That's why it's not an entity. If it was an entity, it will start, my God, how can you think about me like this? Allows. So this is how. So here it says, but the reality of Ishvara, of what it is, does it change depending upon the understanding that people have? It is what it is. It is what it is. This is why any knowledge is always Vastu Tantra. It's in keeping with what it is. It's got nothing to do with what I think about it. It is to do with what it is. Vastu Tantra. Jnanam is Vastu Tantra. So this is how it is. Now, here he says, Tat karma krutva vinirvartya bhuya tattvasya tava enam sametya yogam ekena dvabhyam tribhrishti bhirva kalena cha eva atma gunehi sukshmehi. Okay, so here he says, now if somebody wants to understand, so here is the person, the Ishvara is what it is. All different people, different philosophers have different contentions. Now, somehow it is your pursuit. And you, all of us, in some ways, we come across these thousands of people that are giving what different explanations and understanding of what the world is. Now you have a job here, because you have to decide who to listen to. You need to decide who to what seems reasonable to you, and what will you do? How will you decide who to listen to, who to follow, who to... Because from the way we are operating, we don't even have enough infrastructure to really assess what is really right and what. Once you come to Vedanta, hopefully you are able to, but otherwise you're not equipped. One is not equipped, and this is why, what happens? How do we all?
One way is not to follow people. That is one thing which I realize is people follow people. To avoid following a people and just listen to the teaching and inquire on the teaching can lead you to the next. That's one way.
That's a good tip. When people become attached to people, this knowledge has got nothing to do with people as such. Yes, you can have reverence for people who teach you, of course, but it is not about people. It's about what is, and please remind yourself every day that this pursuit, what is at the center of this pursuit is the truth. Remind yourself every day.
For me, it's also whether there is a tradition or not. It's a new idea from some person. I'm very skeptical, but if there is a long tradition behind it, for me seems to be more reasonable.
Wow, that's an interesting. There is a long tradition. It is like, you can't just be starting to talk about, that's a good way of looking at it. You can't just say, yeah, I'm talking about science. Then, where did you study? Oh no, I didn't study anywhere. It's just intuitive. I'm just telling you what I think. That is, the tradition means what? That there is some thought which has gone in. Then there is some arguments. There is some
enough scholars
depth.
are examining.
There is exactly. That's a good way, but you can have a very long tradition, and that also can be not totally true, right? So that itself, but you are right, at least there is some amount of scholarship and some amount of engagement and not just superficial. That's a nice way of looking at it also. That's true. So in fact, the real answer is that, you need to really purify yourself even to begin to have that discerning power. Even to begin to say, is it sounding reasonable or not? Then you need to, because imagine now, if you have a huge emotional pain and you go to the person, what is at the center? At the center is the truth or your pain?
Pain.
Your pain. If at the center is your pain, and if I'm making a statement without understanding anything, that I have a key to release you from pain,
And
then what will happen? You will feel attracted to me. Because what is at the center is your pain.
Absolutely. That's why people get attracted to people.
Exactly.
Because it removes a lot of things.
Absolutely. So that means, and then in the name of removing pain, the person cannot take you for a ride in the process. And at times can give you more pain than what you originally had. So that means that at the center always has to be not your, yes, that the knowing of the reality will release you from the pain, but at the center is what? Knowing the realities. The getting rid of the pain is not at the center. It will do it as a byproduct. Very important. So that means your interest is, so this is how you, the more you act, this is why Swamiji used to say, even this academic training is very, very important. Because this academic training gives you what? Critical mind, the thinking capacity, rational thing, which is important. He used to tell people that, either you have to have a rigorous academic training, or he said study Sanskrit. Because by studying Sanskrit, that logical mind that you, if you have not got, you will develop. And that developing of logical mind in whichever method is important. The logical mind will make you a discerning human being. That discerning human being means, yes, you want to take care of your emotions, but even to take care of your emotions in a responsible manner, you need a logical mind. Otherwise, somebody will tell you, oh yeah, you just, you will have some energies will rise and you will be in bliss. And then you think, oh yeah, this whole I'm going to be in bliss, then I'll get rid of all my pain. And this is how you also, So that means even to deal with your emotions, you need to have intelligence. In fact, what Vedanta does is, uses your prefrontal cortex to make you understand what your emotional life and undo all the corrections. Your discerning capacity, your understanding capacity is used to undo your emotional mess up. To undo by understanding what is what. So this is how the person moves, right? Okay. So, tat karma krutva, the yogi first performs actions and turns away, practices 1, 2, 3, 8 disciplines, unite one disciplines with the other principle, and with the help of virtues cultivated by the self, right, attains the liberation in time. So that means what? Your first step is what? Putting your life in order. So that means, how do you put your life in order? By following disciplines. What are the disciplines? The life which is all like a wise person, you begin to put it in order. What do you put in order? You bring dharma. That is the first thing you bring. Now dharma itself you define by saying samanya dharma and swadharma. There is a universal ethical values, and also there is what? My duties and responsibilities in the society. Now the duties and responsibilities that I have are also not just towards what? My family, my kids, my friends, my colleagues, the society. So that means you increase the scope of your karma. This is how you grow. Then how else do you bring order to your life? You take care of what your attitudes. When situations happen to you, what are your attitudes? What do you tell yourself? This person is a jerk? Or what do you tell yourself? This system is I'm not satisfied here, I'm not satisfied here, I'm not satisfied here, or you tell yourself something else. When situations happen, what is your inner story? That has to change. That is putting your life in order. Then, what else? The emotions that you have. How do you deal with those emotions? That is putting your life in order. How much more of less of a person who is insecure and just trying to preserve things that one has, to a person who is giving, a contributor. Your life is one discipline, second discipline, third discipline. Every discipline that you follow will bring you closer to what? The reality. Ultimately, you have to understand you are free from karma, yes, but you need all these karmas to prepare you for that freedom. So that means at each level the person makes the effort. You begin, the more you make effort on yourself, naturally the order will put you in touch with the person who is of your level. Then you make more effort, then you will get a corresponding person. Then you make more effort, you will find a corresponding person. This is how there is a design. Nobody goes, you can't go with a torchlight and look for a guru. Where are you going? I am going in search of a guru. How will you decide who is your guru? Difficult. So this is why wherever you are operating from, that type of guru will, it's natural law, it will resonate with you. So that means the more you elevate yourself, the more evolved guru you will get. You have to keep working on yourself. So this is how, and then you get the right guru, then if you have, so this is, it's almost like it's said in many Upanishads, that once you have the right teaching and a right teacher, time is not far that you get moksha. Because at least from all these other possibilities where you were struggling, now there is a person with clarity, and hopefully the person can make you. And even to be connected to a person with clarity, you yourself are operating because you deserve that person. So that means you have done that work to have that teacher. Now it's not too far. Moksha is not too far. So that means your whole thing is what? Not escaping from the life but preparing yourself. Disciplines. Disciplines. Becoming more and more and more refined human being. More and more noble, more and more mature, more and more responsible. This is what will ultimately connect you to the right person, the right guru who can give you the knowledge. So this is how it is said, that it starts with all the disciplines. Then we see next in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते